Do libraries normally pick and choose from your submitted album or contract the entire album? And what if they take the album and you don't get placements for some tracks? So let's take that first part there. Usually, they will probably take the entire album. Now, it's possible that if you send them 10, there's two tracks on your album they don't really like. It's possible they'll just like, you know what, thanks, but no thanks. We really don't want these other two. They're not really getting the job done. And I've had that happen in my career where I sent a big batch of music and they didn't all get accepted. So it's possible. But for the most part, if you're following the right guidelines, if you're listening to them, if you are delivering licensable music, they're usually going to take the entire album all at once, put it under one contract, okay? So your second part of the question was, what if they take the album and you don't get placements for some tracks? Well, that's definitely going to happen, okay? So what do you mean, what if? That will definitely happen. I want to dispel any sort of misunderstandings. You will not get every single track that you get into a library having placements. Like, there's going to be some tracks. I have many tracks that I composed, spent days on, hours on, that have been collecting dust and not getting any placement in some libraries. That's just planet Earth. That's just taking a risk. That's just playing the odds. Like, there's just some tracks that are just not going to get a place. Doesn't mean you can't succeed. Doesn't mean you can't make full-time income, but you got to make sure that you're very realistic about that. Now, if you have a contract that says your tracks need to stay with that library in perpetuity, that's it. Your tracks will be there in perpetuity collecting dust. Maybe in 5 years, somebody will use it and you'll get a royalty from that, hopefully, right? If you have the reversion clause, then maybe you can send them a note at the end of the 2 or 3 year period and say, hey, these 6 tracks out of my 10 never got placements. I'm now claiming them back and I'm going to go find another home for them. So that's why asking for that reversion clause can be very, very useful for you. So if they're not delivering how you hope they were going to be delivering, you at least have that peace of mind that, you know, if they don't do it, that's fine. I'll find another home for them. The perpetuity thing, that's why sometimes, unless you feel like very, very strong that they are the right library for you, that they're really giving you some personalized attention, you feel like you're in really good hands and you can take a risk with them. You know, the one way you can minimize your risk is just not give them all of your music, right? You give them some tracks and you kind of play the wait and see game. What will they actually get done for you? What kind of placements are they going to deliver for you in that first 6 months or a year? If it's not feeling good to you and you're not getting a lot of love and not a lot of placements and like nothing, then maybe you shouldn't go send them 50 more tracks, right? Because they're not the right library for you for whatever reason. Your music, their clients, they're not pitching you. Who knows? It doesn't matter. You're just not seeing the results. So perpetuity is that you have certainly every right to gradually dip your toes into those waters and not immediately just give them all of your tracks all at once. In fact, I think that's a pretty foolish thing to do with a perpetuity exclusive licensing agreement, is just send them all of your tracks all for the entire year. If your first library is exclusive perpetuity, I would immediately start looking for a secondary company. Even if that secondary one is also exclusive and in perpetuity, at least you can now compare between the two, right? Because if you had nothing to compare to, this one got you 1, but then you start working with this one got you 10 placements, now you know where you need to go. So just be aware of that kind of stuff. There's no such thing as getting rid of risk, though. There's no such thing as getting rid of, like, how do I ensure that I always get placements and that every track you're asking the wrong questions. That's just not the planet that we live on. Those are not the odds that we deal with in this business. It's just about increasing your odds and working with the best kind of companies that you possibly can.